Let's see. Let's wait for people to join to tell us how the sound is sounding. And we're going to work on today's topic, which is on the board. Kivushkan? Kivushkan, load it up. How is the sound? How are you? Sound is good. Wonderful. How is the garden? How is the dog? Oh, how amazing. How amazing. So, dog is still napping. Where is mine? He's napping on the cold floor. Feels like it's been so long since we last streamed. I was under that tree with flowers all alone again. Amazing. It's gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. I can only imagine that. Mm. Wonderful. When was it? Did I go on Friday? I don't remember. It feels like eternity, really. Today, I actually wanted to touch up on the case study. There was a very interesting situation that one of the subscribers shared with me via email, and I wanted to, it sparked the topic for today. Other flowers started to bloom. Ooh. Really cool. The whole summer ahead. Case study, yes, it's case study that will span into the whole topic concerning different life areas. So I want to talk about barriers, and I will briefly describe what happened with the person. So barriers in life and creativity and practices. In tantric practices, for instance, remember people who attend the workshops. We have safety measures. We have safety protocol and rules for practices. We have a statement there that if during the tantric practice you experience a barrier, you experience some psychological or physical phenomena, some unpleasant sensations that can be in visualization, can be depicted as walls, obstacles, and such, or physically some fatigue or irritation. Yes, introduction. Or if you go into some irritation, burst of anger, then some like very strong, deep sensation. Voice sounds like that. Okay, sure. So when you experience those walls, mental walls, physical barrier, physical discomfort, irritation, anger, burst, then it is a sign to pivot in the practice. It is a sign that we need to either experiment and reset our practice for it to go on a different route, or we need to, let me see all messages because there are a couple of people now. Okay. 66, hello, welcome back. They talk about barriers based on the case study. So when we experience that, we need to take a detour. We need to analyze how can we make our experience different? How can we, instead of being stuck in the practice, how can we walk around the obstacle? How can we come to some completion? How can we come to some harmony in the end? And the thing is, the case study that I worked on was the following. I recommended the person to perform the aggression dumping practice because the person has a burst of anger, and at the same time a lot of the events and a very interesting phenomenon with self-expression that is suppressed in a sense. So I recommended to experiment with aggression dumping practices. You know that we have this theme. It arises a lot when we work with trauma, when we work with some big disappointments, when we work with a lot of self-repression. Releasing aggression, releasing emotions is one of the very important steps. However, as understood, and that will be discussed today, not every psyche will be allowing the aggression dump. And in the case study that I want to describe, the person went into aggression dump practice, but they experienced a huge obstacle, which was physically perceived, which was like some pressure in the chest. So their body was not allowing them to go for this release, even though, presumably, I mean, I don't know how the practice was performed. It was a self installation, it was self performance, so there was no guidance. So I don't know how exactly, what was the exact script for the practice that was in action. My proposed script always involves creation of safe space, creation of intention that this is a practice for this and this purpose, and I am going for the next however much time, I am going to devote myself to this release. For instance, also to remove some ritualistic attachments, like if I say something, what if it will come true, and so on. We need to dump all that and go for release of emotions. Go through this cartoon, enact this cartoon in our head, enact it with the body and with voice, and get the aggression out until it is boring to do so. While there is internal fire, we're doing this. And what the person described was, even though they have spontaneous flashes of anger in daily life, when they went to purposeful practice, they were not able to perform it because it was a barrier. The body felt like it was unsafe. The body felt like it was just putting a hard stop on this practice. How interesting is that? And I want to today discuss this topic of barriers. What are those barriers and what to do with them? Because barriers can arise in our practice, whether it is organized improperly or, yes, the body was resistant. So what could have gone wrong? I have no idea. But I will be brainstorming this. Either the process was staged in a way that there was no sense of safety, or there was some trauma on the way. So trauma went on the way, which means that there was no support, there perhaps was no internal permission that actually can be accomplished with the guide. Or there could be a methodological loophole that could allow, or the detour rather, not loophole, detour, that could allow to go over that barrier. So these things are what I would investigate with the person. But the case study was incredibly interesting to me, and that was in the practice in which we presumably create a controllable environment. Needless to say that if we take life, which is largely dominated by automations, pre-designed scenarios, preconceived ideas about how society treats us, some foreign eyes, some foreign objects sitting inside of us and determining how we perceive our existence, our life, environment around us. It might be very, very interesting thing to look into barriers, but at the same time really challenging to go over those barriers. Life oftentimes is infested with barriers that prevent us from doing what we want, even thinking what we want, going for what we want, saying things that we want. Because they're barriers. What are those barriers? Are all barriers useful? Are all barriers actually are productive? Oftentimes there are barriers that are rather an impediment in our life, something that reduces our quality of life, something that reduces our potential, something that adds extra importance to something that we don't really care to have, something that's counterproductive. Barriers in creativity. Chad, hello, welcome back. Barriers can be in creativity. I, for example, want to paint this painting. I want to write a beautiful melody. I want to sing. But when I try to sing or dance, I feel blocky. I feel like when I try to sing this beautiful, expressive hook, what comes out of my head is, not airy, not voluminous, bright expansion, this majestic sound that can resonate in the room. No, I perhaps envision how I want to sing something like, with that volume, with that integration. I envision it like this majestic roar, majestic sound. But in turn, what happens is, and it seems like there is something that just doesn't allow me to get there. Barrier in creativity. I want to paint something, but the moment I see white canvas, my ideas take a major detour. Whenever sometimes at 2 a.m., I'm in bed and I'm thinking, oh my God, this would be an amazing performance. This would be such a cool creative idea. Tomorrow, I will get up and I will go to some hardware store. I'll buy myself this wooden board and I will buy myself paint and I will buy some rope and I will make this gorgeous installation. I'll take phenomenal photos and it will be such a beautiful project. The morning comes and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. Nope. The relevance lost, inspiration's lost, some barrier. The barrier of why would I do this? I'd rather make soup right now and whatnot. So, and who needs this? The barrier. And then we go into practice. There's a huge roar inside that wants to come to the environment, that wants to enlighten the world with its power. But I go and I face it, and all that comes out is, nope. What is that? Probably some phenomenon of the same order. Remember, we were talking about how nature gave us this defense mechanism. Well, I can relate. Wonderful, 66. We have a whole polygamous situationship going on. In line, guys. You're Latin? No, I'm not Latin. So, I remember when we were talking about reclamation of your right to uproar. We were talking about how it's essentially it's nature's mechanism for you to be able to stick up for yourself. You are supposed to learn, like any animal, you're supposed to learn how to roar, how to be intimidating, how to defend yourself, how to fight for your territory, for your resources, how to claim things. This is a survival mechanism for every predator species. This natural aggression is something that's nature given to us for survival. But then in society, the laws are a little bit different, and depending on the class that you grow in, and depending on your bringing, whether your parents want you to be a convenient little child, or whether your parents are strong enough to withstand your um, self-expression, your complete emotional and behavioral development, and thus allow you to learn to live with different emotions, with different expressive um, tools. Whether your parents can sit through the storm that you create when you face aggression, when you face frustration. And if your parents are not capable of that, they may create a reflex that when you are roaring, when you are trying to exercise this trait, exercise this adaptation that this is me fighting for my resources, this is me fighting for my interests, this is me fighting for my boundaries, if in that moment you just get something like, eventually it becomes a reflex that this behavior is highly unwanted. And depending on the severity of case, depending on how much your parents find uncomfortable and unbearable, you might learn that literally anything related to self-expression shall be deeply suppressed. And even some basic things, as expression of emotions like laughter, being able to cry, being able to speak at normal volume, being able to sing, being able to move openly, having open body that is capable of occupying large amount of space, even these things become suppressed. Instead of the body that's capable of having good posture, having broad gestures, being able to open, being able to stand confidently. You probably have seen people, or maybe you are yourself, doing this. People who go like this. The tail is tucked. The hands are moving exclusively like this. The elbows are always squeezed into the body. The head is shrunk because it's very unsafe to stick in the landscape of things. You should not be on the way of a parent who is not capable of enduring your presence. You are not breathing even. You're not, because you're shrinking yourself. Not only your voice is likely going to be beep, but also your breathing pattern will be skewed because you're not capable of having open chest. This is all going to be compressed. Your pelvic floor is going to be devoid of normal blood flow. What's going on? My AC just made water sound. I don't need another leak in this apartment, please. So your pelvic floor is tucked in. Your sexuality is not developing in some harmonious fashion. Your voice is not developing in harmonious fashion. Your way of speaking, and then even your thoughts become also quite skewed because there's internal censorship. It just becomes a reflex, something that you don't even think about. Because you know that self-expression equates to lack of safety, loss of safety, and it equates to pain. It equates to some highly uncomfortable, highly unpleasant outcome. Children don't have blocks, just life as adult is crap. Poor confidence. Good stuff, right? Well, there could be no world where everyone's expressing themselves completely, having more than others. Math doesn't add up. Different social roles requires different trauma to be good at their role. Of course, I'm not talking about fixing the world of Batapa. I'm talking to people who would benefit from my teachings. So, yeah, Kiva, people are joining in. Very nice. And then also Batapa, people who realize that they usually come from the point where pain becomes unbearable. It's not that they live and they're fulfilled with their role and they just keep rocking. It is people who feel pain and disagreement with that. The biggest struggle is experienced by people, perhaps, who are intelligent enough to understand the conflict that they have, or not intelligent, who don't settle, who have some core thing that allows them to recognize that there is pain, that there is dysfunction. Or they were, for example, presented to something that was good, that they felt was good and rewarding, and then their life took a detour without their will even, and that showed them that life is a dysfunctional process, and they try to find a way out of that. But I'm not a proponent of fixing the world. I'm not a proponent of fixing just every human being on earth, because I understand it's not realistic. But whoever can benefit from that. But there is a silver lining. My techniques fits all, isn't it? My techniques fits all who come to me to learn them. It's not my technique fits all, and I'm gonna go and I'm going to abuse people with like just trying to make them try some things and live a certain way. I'm not going to do that. People come to me, and I'm there because I've been in certain situations. They brought me to what I do, that brought me to what I learned, and I meet people who come with interest, with their will to me. And I'm there to give them the tools. This is not something that can be compulsorily taught to someone, applied to someone, that compulsorily is needed by everyone. It's not realistic. I don't have a mission in mind. I don't have some ideas, like some hegemonic ideas about that. No. So the barriers that arise then is that person did not grow knowing how to manage their self-expression. They did not know how to use it productively. For instance, a child in some functional system would learn the lesson that your frustration can be utilized as an energy source for some change. If you want something changed, let's put that energy of frustration, of that disappointment that you had, for instance, that we did not buy you a toy, to thinking how you could make this toy that you really want happen. Let's take this frustration right now and channel it into some actionable energy. This could be a lesson to a child, instead of just punishing them for that frustration. When we punish a child for their frustration, we're teaching them to ignore their desires. We're teaching them to regard their desires as some curse. Instead of teaching them through sitting with them through the emotion and demonstrating to them how to use that emotion, to how to make it possible, how to make it happen. So that is a big distinction there. If there is some element of sadness, for instance, we can also talk it through. We can also understand it, and we can also turn it into something productive. Frustration, sadness, aggression. And then, from having blocks, we are teaching a person different reflex. Instead of having this self-repression as a reflex, we're teaching them the reflex of, okay, first burst of emotion happened. This indicates that there is something lacking in my life, or there is something that I don't understand in life. And this frustration becomes actionable. If I am experiencing that, I know the recipe. I know how to write the recipe for how to get out of this frustration. Instead of replaying the scenario of frustration, self-abusing over and over and over and over. And that creates the mentality of not barriers, but challenges, creative projects, ideas, curiosity. And the energy flow doesn't stop there. We don't stop this energy flow. Like we showed in the previous stream where we talked about Mortido, effectively things that make life flow, just crash into something and stop. we embrace this flow. We take energy of that emotion and put it into something productive. So I think your advice is to optimize those who hear, not necessarily to fix the world, as there aren't 8 billion people in chat right now. Exactly, Chad. Yeah. And again, a lot of people live in the paradigm that paradigm of suffering being a currency. They live in this interesting transaction. They choose to be in this weird perverted trade with some deity, for example, to whom they pay their suffering as like coins to get something good in life. There's this scenario that's very overwhelming. So, Uncle Buddy shares that they have heartache and pain. All they have. Uncle Buddy, your statement is likely can be a little bit broadened, because please write down somewhere on a piece of paper everything that you have, and then see how much of that everything is occupied by heartache and pain. What else do you have? At the very least, you have a body. You have a body that senses, and that body is much bigger than heart that may ache, and the body is much bigger than the pain. Hence, heartache and pain only belong to some parts of some bigger system, the body. But you probably have much more than that. So I want you to write down everything that you have, such that we see your problem not as an overwhelming domain, but something that is a part of a big domain of some stuff that you control, stuff that you have a good handle on. So when it happens due to aggression, then we surely can go into the practice of aggression release. And we can have very vivid activation of reflex of how my aggression was met with some unsafety, how my aggression was met with pain, how my aggression was met with punishment. That program will just load up in practice. Hence, I probably would change my approach to conducting this practice or advising this practice towards giving far many more conditions and preparational steps prior to entering the practice of aggression release. Very herring is a fish, but not all fish herring, from Grungit. So barriers could also be constructive, and feeling bad while hitting a barrier doesn't mean it's destructive. Pain is often growth. No, having pain, settling for pain is not growth. If you're doing stuff to get out of pain, that is growth. If you hit the pain and you're like, okay, wow, pain, and you settle for it, it's not growth. What preparational steps may be necessary for this case study for work with aggression? Let's think about it. What is needed for that? There's needed to be a deep permission to perform this practice. The permission to perform this practice can be achieved through multiple pathways. First pathway is to make not performing the practice so painful and bad that performing this practice and releasing aggression becomes less scary than living with some pain that's associated with keeping this thing inside. The second thing that can help with that, to enter this practice and allow aggression, is to just understand, think and understand, and perhaps also communicate it to yourself, that whoever you are expressing aggression towards are not humans. Because we always, for example, when it comes to parents, we love a huge component of our parent. There is a huge avatar, huge part of the parent that we absolutely love. And there is a part of parent that was, for example, performing something violent upon us. And we hate that thing that was performing violence. And paralyzing these things may help some people to view it as good cute, kind parent, perhaps even in their child form, but possessed by a demon. In that sense, I am attacking a demon. I'm doing something righteous in my mind, and my aggression is going to rescue everything that's good about people who perform some aggressive acts upon me. So I can legalize this aggression by parallelizing the components separating them, that I love about the person, that are good, and components that are evil, that deserve punishment, that need to be dismantled, that need to be destroyed, that need to be shown their place. The revenge should happen upon them. This is another thing. And then another thing that can help to overcome or remove the barrier towards expressing the aggression, even in privacy. Of course, the work with the body and work with physical component of expression through, for example, shaking, through choreography, and through relaxation work. When we can have a higher throughput and higher mobility, because aggression sometimes becomes very powerful emotion on the background of oppressed individual's life. The person can have very emotionally bleak life, very emotionally suppressed, and then we tell them express aggression. Very high range from here to there. That's why mobility, that's why playing around with different emotional states as preparation for that aggression release can be a very good strategy as well. And another thing is, of course, curating very good environment for the practice for release, where you explain yourself before the practice that this is a theatrical play, that this is a safe space, that nobody will see me, that nobody will judge me, that this is just a playful thing that will remain between me and these walls around me. No one will see that. Some people will have anxiety that the sky is hearing things, that that somehow this practice will backfire, that this will be so destructive, that this will be so terrible, that somehow in the ether, in some collective consciousness, there will be a huge disruption. In that sense, it's very important to regard this as it's a form of medicine. It's a form of healing. It's a form of just rescuing myself. I can do so much more if I get rid of this barrier. And then, this is for preparation. If we look into the practice itself, if we go inside of the practice, if this practice was to be conducted with the guide, this is where creativity starts. What is this barrier like? When did this barrier occur? At what step do you see this barrier? Do you see it or do you feel it? How does it look in your visual space when we're going through visualization of some situation that we need to combat? How does it appear in your visual space? Can we step back and see what's around? Is there a way around? Because in practices, I rarely advise people to crash the barriers. Go and crash them. Usually, it is a little bit of waiting game. It is a little bit of workaround game, not the game of brute forcing something. We're not brute forcing the psyche because the trauma itself was brute forcing the psyche. Hence, pushing through things that you're not ready to go through is effectively re-traumatization. We're not doing that. That's why I'm very serious. Very seriously, I treat the boundaries that arise during meditations. Very seriously treat blockages that arise during visualization meditation. It's not something to take lightly. Because again, there is always hazard of re-traumatization if we are to brute force through the barrier. That's why I was very happy when the person told me about this precedent that the practice didn't go through and they stopped. I was very happy about this. Um, some examples for how to work with the barriers in meditation. If you ever encounter that in your visual work, let's say. Let's see. What do you say? These barriers are just randomly dealt per person by blind fate, or do they have higher meaning and purpose? I don't know what higher meaning and purpose are. 66 says enter message retracted, but Chad agrees with it. James Miller, thank you. For example, in a visual work, the person runs into a barrier. Goes through meditation. We, for example, can go through meditation of path, or we can go through a meditation of I don't know, like looking through environment, interacting with some imagery that represents some conflict that we have. So in this visualization, a person feels physical barrier inside, like some nodule, and they see some visual thing. What can we do with that? The creative work there. The first thing, are you fatigued? This is a very important thing. People who go into workshops also. Some note for you. If you're very fatigued, if you feel like you would rather rest or sleep, active practices are not a good idea. Which means that if a person feels deep fatigue in that moment, the best thing we can do is we can find some visual image for rest, let their body rest in that imagery, and then inquire a client. That's what I would do with a client. Inquire, are you willing to do anything active right now after the rest? And if the person says that they feel very good and restful, this means that we're just retracting from the practice. We're not going further. We're going to resume it when there is a surplus of energy, when there is rage coming up, when there is some active energy, electricity starts flowing in the person. If a person is not fatigued, the person is not tired, there's just the internal prohibition, physical prohibition inside of them that does not allow them to go, that take that barrier. What can we do? We can step back in the meditation. We step back, we minimize that barrier, and we're looking, where do you want to go in this meditation? Is there any scenery that you would want to use? Because maybe that particular scenery that you wanted to enact was prohibited. Can we envision something else? Is there other scenario? For example, let's turn to the right. Is there some other scenario that happens there? Maybe also, there are interesting phenomena that happen in tantric meditation that I noticed. There is directionality sometimes. There is directionality of some direction I feel energy, I feel like going to, and the other direction is something restful, is something we are just want to lay down. There could be different illumination, there could be different scenery in different directions. So we can investigate, is the person going to the direction in which their psyche doesn't see much energy? Let's go take an actual detour, like in VR glasses. Let's take a detour, let's go to the right, let's see what's there. Let's go to the right stronger, let's pivot even more in the psychophysical space when we're walking. Because it's very interesting phenomenon. In this visual space, we have projections of some properties and the dominance of our psyche that are associated with very highly different modes of our functioning. So then there is a detour. For example, there is a barrier here, but there is a pathway here. Let's take that path where energy flows, where mobility is an option. We're experimenting with that. Then sometimes there's barrier in the center, blocking very forefront, very focal plane. what's around it. Let's breathe. Are you breathing well? We need to ask ourselves, are we breathing well? If this blockage happens in the focal plane, covering the visual space, likely tension arises. Let's breathe. Can we breathe? And here is a lesson that I learned in singing, for instance. You can feel such an importance, you can feel such a sacralization or intensity that you forget to breathe. So as a guide, I would be advising the person to scan their breath. Are you breathing? This barrier likely is very tense when we are in the meditation and visualization. In the focal plane, some obstacle arises. Likely tension happened. Let's breathe. Breathe through what happens to the barrier. Because this visualization is our psychophysical space. It's representation of all. So we start breathing in the belly. We regulate our breath. What's happening to the barrier? Is it disappearing or not? Then, another thing is that if the breathing helped and the barrier, let's say, shrunk, became smaller, became approachable, can we peek over the barrier? What happens there? When you walk along the barrier, does it become taller? Does it feel like a wall? Or does it feel like support if you walk by it? Do you see anything emerging from that barrier? Is it dark behind the barrier? We're studying the barrier. We're letting it be. We're respecting it. So these are the scenarios for how we would work with the barrier inside of the practice. How does it translate to working with barriers in real life? Have a barrier talking to people. I have a barrier of speaking in public. I have a barrier of Paxton there, hello. I have a barrier of I don't know, starting some new project. I have a barrier of whatever, come up with something. How to approach it in real life? Same exact way. We can either design a practice, or we can just sit and contemplate that barrier. What happens? Am I simply physically tired? Am I breathing well? What is that tension about? If I reduce the tension, if I actually relax in presence of this barrier, can I actually just accomplish it? Can I actually dissolve that barrier? Can I just tunnel right through it? Like a quantum particle. You know, tunneling is when you have sufficient amount of energy that the particle doesn't see the barrier. We dissolve that barrier, or the barrier can be very thin, such they can just tunnel right through it. It becomes comparable to the wavelength of the particle. So we can actually play the same way with life barriers, with creativity barriers. We can study the barriers. We can analyze their presence, and we can also look for detours. If I actually, sometimes there is a thing, I have a fear of writing. I sit down to my desk, for example, someone wants to write a book, they start writing, they feel barrier to write. Have you tried laying down? Have you tried writing in your bed? Why do you create such an event that you need to sit down at the desk, look at the clock, acknowledge the time, and sit and write it? Have you tried writing in the bed? Have you tried writing in the garden? Have you tried colorful pens? Have you tried writing perhaps on the laptop? Have you tried writing to a music? Have you tried writing and drinking some cacao or some beautiful beverage that you would like, that you enjoy, something ritualistic? Bring some aestheticization to this process? Have you tried wearing some clothes that are whimsical, that bring you to special mood? There's no need sometimes to brute force the things, because what happens when we brute force through the barriers, yeah, sometimes it works out. But if we want to bring consistency to something, to doing something, when we have barriers, if we brute force it, what do we learn? We learn that this activity is associated with stress or brute forcing. Do we want that? We don't. We want pleasure tied to a new habit. We want to infuse our new habit with as much pleasure as we can, such that it becomes not a threat to our psyche, not a threat to our body, such that it becomes pleasure. We should be able to inhale, we should be able to be excited about it. How to aestheticize this process to get excited? How to change environment for this process to get excited? When it comes to life barriers are interesting. That's why I love doing the practices, because in those we can aestheticize our internal world and tie it to a certain social scenario. We can find a much more beautiful, much more satisfied version of ourselves inside of our psyche already loaded up. We just don't connect with it. It exists, we just don't exercise it because the habit is different. We can just exercise connecting with that very beautiful state of our psyche. We can build and connect with that beautiful internal garden that gives us a lot of resource to make us capable of just not noticing the barrier, dissolution of barrier, breathing it in, lightness, tunneling through, flying over, swimming over. These things are far more useful, far more productive than brute forcing through the barrier, trying to hit it, trying to push through it. This is what this practice could teach us. Working with beer is one of the most fascinating, most interesting things in visual work with people. Everything is quite interesting, in fact. Very interesting to notice how body wakes up. Very interesting to notice how suddenly things become clear. Practice bring clarity. But when suddenly we see barrier, we do something that we desire to do, but psyche doesn't let us. What is that? It's an incredibly interesting symptom, incredibly interesting thing. So for the person who connected with me on that matter, I really wish that they watched this video. And perhaps in some live stream we can conduct the practice with them and see how we can dissolve that barrier. So let's see the chat. Thank you, Death Metal Music 29. Oh. Ryan, get out. I'm limited how much? 200 symbols. I can't put precise definitions there, and answering is also an answer. Got it, thanks. I listen to you, then hit the piano, then listen to you, then hit the piano. I am Millie Medina. Nice. Kiva, you see, we have a friend who does piano. Brandon is interested. What about the root chakra? What about it? What about the root chakra? I don't know. I don't use the notion of chakras necessarily in my work. It's something, some lingo that can be used for people who are, for example, in the theme, have yogic training, and like to appeal to such terminology. But what about root chakra? If you have any specific question about root chakra, then let's discuss. For the writing in the garden, colorful pens choice, I have tried. Very nice for pianist, Uncle Buddy. What's held for review? Why in meditation you have to change places? Why not stay in one place? Almond yesterday. Yeah, the bears have different levels. Yes, they have different levels and they can behave in different ways. Barrier chakra. Why in meditation you have to change places? Why not stay in one place? Imagine almond yesterday. The I will give you an example, okay? Let's say meditation person comes and tells me that they always pick some nasty partners and they are terrified of entering new relationships because they know that their next partner will be highly destructive because they always pick those wrong partners. We visualize, let's say, like saying, visualize the space. It can be a field, it can be a room, it can be a garden, it can be forest, it can be mountains, anything, water even. So a person visualizes some space. Okay, let's walk a little bit. I invite the person to walk through that space such that they can perhaps induce a more native scenery, because sometimes it's worth relaxing a person before doing some more active work. Let's walk around, see how the landscape changes. Okay, we walk through that. Then I invite the person to induce the visual of those nasty partners. Envision them. Okay, envision that here they are, like they're here. In their like physical space, in that landscape, they just see this agglomerate. Can be humans, can be animals. Once I conducted a meditation, the person imagined certain group of people as hedgehogs. So some animals, but for some reason animals. Some people, for example, imagine people when there's communication barrier, they can imagine them as animals. Interesting. They can be as plants, they can be as rocks, can be some cartoonish characters, whatnot, mythological characters. So they imagine those shitty partners. Come close to them. Do you want to come close to them? No, I don't. I feel danger, I feel tension when I come close to them. Okay. How much space do they occupy? The person describes like, no, they occupy pretty like good amount of space right now in my visual field. Okay. Those shitty partners. Can you walk around those shitty partners? Yes. Can you multiply them? Yes. Can you shrink them? Yes. What do you want to do? Like, do you want to be close to that? Or is it appealing vision? Or is it gonna be empty? Is it gonna be empty without them? Yeah, it's gonna be empty without them. Okay, let's keep them. But now, can we look around? Yes. Let's look around. Let's step a little bit away. Let's zoom out. So the person goes away a little bit, and they start noticing that, okay, there is much more space around me. That's not those shitty partners. Okay, let's walk around. What's located to the right of you? How do you feel? Is there anything interesting and eye-catching in this environment? Yes. Can we walk somewhere and find put a good partner there? Can you put there's a beautiful garden there? Let's put a good partner, good man. Yes, I can. How do they look? Can you make them as beautiful and nice as you possibly can? Yeah, I can. Excitement grows, and we have already this beautiful garden where we start putting those beautiful creatures in this beautiful garden. Person gets excited. And now if we go and try to walk more, we have this progression of this beautiful garden. Suddenly the space becomes inhabited with very beautiful creatures, sunshine and everything. And now I'm like, can we please now go back to that vision and heal it? After you've seen that, you built it to your standard of what is love, beauty, and the grace and everything. Yes, we can. Let's heal them. Now, when you're charged with the understanding that there are beautiful creatures there, you are going to go and heal that space. You are going to go and heal those characters that you consider nasty. And your visual space entirely, you kind of fix it. You kind of build it to your liking. And now you know that in your focus, it's not only that nastiness. there's also goodness, and moreover, you yourself have a power to heal your perception in the sense that you are not going to be captivated by that. You're not going to be affected by that. Hence, it's not going to be the dominant in your daily life. You built and visualized and saw the dominant of something good. Your brain has an alternative. It's not going to be fixating only on those nasty people. That will ruin your life. No. Moreover, this visual also let you feel very good. You realized how it feels in presence of very good people. How you yourself feel. You understand it now. And with that relaxation, with that grace, with that dignity that is now preserved and nurtured, you are going to be interacting with the world on different terms. Not on terms of, but on terms of, I hope that's clear. We just need to zoom out in the domains. If you noticed in Tantra, we always work on zooming out, seeing bigger domain, such that the problem becomes just a piece in the domain, huge domain, in which there's many more options. Who is that? Is it Hippocrates? Hippocrates, Hippocrates! Thank you so much. Are you still here? No, bye-bye. Turning on the phone, seeing female Aslan from Chronicles of Narnia, that flowing golden vein is such a refresh. I have 5 minutes to let you know you're appreciated. Please be here. Hippocrates, I want you back. I want you back. Okay. Thank you, Big Cured. Trip says, I've been on 3 dates now with this girl who's super nice and it's going good, but she's quiet and sometimes it's awkward because I'm quiet too. Awkward, what's awkward about it? Trip, you've been 2 days in a row, but brother, you're doing some right thing, something right. I always end up hippo. Yeah, I miss him so much. And that's how you go to Narnia. True, I just feel like it should come more naturally if she's the one, but I'm seeing her tomorrow for date night. And what's not natural? The tension, by the way, Trip, you should probably try dissolving tension inside of you in response to that awkwardness. Because if you feel tension conveys to other people, and then it just spirals into resonance of awkwardness. So my recommendation here would be my hypothesis to try would be to remove tension, because if it feels awkward to you, likely feels awkward to her, and then everybody is tense in the body. Tense in the body indicates threat. Why do we need threat on a date? Instead of ease. Ты пришел на работу, мой ежик. Ну-ка иди сюда. Кузьма, иди покажись, пожалуйста. My dog had to get had a haircut. Иди сюда, мой принц. Иди на ручки быстро. Ну-ка иди сюда. Ну пойдем твою прическу новую покажем. Ты иди сюда. Так, сейчас. Иди сюда, поросюшка моя. Идем скорей. Идем скорей, покажем. Идем показываться на видео. Кусь, иди работать быстро, маленькая собака. Погамнец, иди сюда быстро. Брук Bros, kiddigs, dang, and Blue, it came so late. No, it's not too late, it's 1 hour only. Smile forever. If I had to leave quick, yes. He's running away, yes, he is. Иди сюда быстро. Иди сюда. Иди на работу быстро. Кузьмич, ну ты тебя мясом зачем кормила, а? Чтоб на работу ходил, иди сюда. But Papa doesn't care. Trip also, the awkwardness arises when? Is it like right from the beginning? Which moments that trigger silence? Which moments trigger that awkwardness and tension? Иди сюда, Пончик. Иди сюда, пожалуйста, на ручки, иди сюда. Ну, Кузьмич, ну иди сюда. Ну что это за безобразие такое? Ну я сейчас поймаю. Я тебя сейчас поймаю. Поп тебя укушу, ну-ка иди сюда быстро. Безобразничай какой. Trip. Trip, trip, trip. Let's see the original. Super nice. She's quiet. Sometimes it's awkward. First date was a dog walk, and it was so easygoing, not awkward at all. It was the second dance dinner date that got awkwardish. Did it become awkward when the boundaries started being like pushed, or what? Because you know, in the relationships, when we get closer to each other, there are those moments. No, not dance dinner day. Okay. When we get closer with people, we kind of bypass boundaries little by little. Like we go from just civil communication of two random people to people who are in some intimate bond gradually. So, did this moment of getting closer trigger the weirdness? Fancy dinner date. Okay, fancy dinner date. Господи. Естин. I'll help you, Естин. Get the dog the attention he wants. He'll wait. Yes, because I think we're both more nervous because we liked each other. Now that barrier theme, perfect, by the way, on theme. Because the context also can spiral things out of control a little bit. How to make things more easygoing, how to also turn tension into excitement. Because even if you are in very long-lasting marriage, you can also have scenarios in which there will be awkwardness because of some context that is absolutely weird. We've never been in this. We've never been in this context before. So we're going together. Let's say what will be some experience that's weird. Иди сюда быстро, маленькая собака. For instance, you're meeting parents of your boyfriend, girlfriend for the first time. That's some scenario that's really awkward. There will be a lot of tension. You will feel outside of the comfort zone, both of you as partners. So it might be a really strange encounter that will make you feel exposed, naked. And if there is already context that implies some tension, some novelty, and you're also having novelty of relationship, that might just overload your brain a little bit. So if it's fancy dinner, the fact that it's fancy Do you usually go on fancy dinners alone? Is it something that is a part of your routine, or is it something that you do specifically for the date all of a sudden? Then no wonder that it could be an overload. Thursday, the movie night. It was great. Felt more natural. It wasn't awkward, but we had the movie going too to help where we didn't have to talk then the whole time. Okay. And so it sounds like, yeah, the more casual, the less pressure you put on yourself, the easier it gets. Which means that it might be worth experimenting with context. What we're learning about today, we're learning about barriers. Based on the case study that I got sent about the barrier erosion practice of one person. Moldy bones. No, I do singing though. So yeah, my idea would be to optimize the system is to reduce the contextual tension. The more casual it goes, for now, the better. Because, romanticism, romantics, some things like that, they can put a huge toll on nervous system. They can be awkward in themselves. I was thinking in my head that it would be just a spark with on work or with no work or thought. So I didn't want to force it. No forcing. No forcing, but I mean, what do you want to force? You want to force talking? You want to force intimacy? You want to force what? To me, my reflex, my instinct tells me to see how you can minimize tension and then see with clarity. Because if you have tension, if you have anxiety crippling in both of you, it's good to rule out the contextual anxiety such that you can see each other clearly to see whether you're a match or not. Because there could be two components, of course. There could be a component of you two just being kind of threat to each other somewhere deep inside. So you may be maybe not a good match. You feel not comfortable, not safe, not yourself with each other specifically, no matter the environment. And then it is likely that you need to observe a little bit and potentially, yeah, it's not a good match. Might turn out to be that way. But I would rule out the contextual contribution. Force us to work for each other. I think I'm just overthinking everything. And find in your mind, find the scenario that would be the most conducive or the most easygoing encounter. People are different. People are different. Yeah, we have very good sensors, for sure. We have very good sensors in what person is good, what person is not. But sometimes those sensors can be giving us a little bit distorted information. So it's good to put certain things to test if you have ambiguity. Because a good example would be women go absolutely nuts sometimes, or men go absolutely nuts for highly destructive people who give them huge emotional spikes and make everything so easy in the beginning. Their barriers are crushed immediately, and then months later they find themselves in an absolutely destroyed state because they kind of clicked on some super strong traumatic excited state. And then their relationship turns into this torture, like just sucking their vital energy out. So that could be a trap where our sensors can work kind of against us in the long run. But then sometimes the person who is suddenly outside of that paradigm that we kind of vibe with, we feel comfortable and safe with, at the same time starts feeling really weird because it's not familiar, or it's not as sparky, it's not as goosebumpy. But at the same time, I'm still attracted to this person. I feel something profound about this person, something good. I feel safe deep inside. But at the same time, the scenario is so weird that I feel anxiety. That is worth to explore. That's something worthy of exploration, I think. But in either case, tension is not a good friend. And remembering to breathe would be the very first, very simple trick to bring on a date. Breathing. And then also concepts about that too. Just watching. If the person is tense in their body, you can communicate relaxation by relaxing yourself. And that can be very easygoing. Not imagine, for example, you are with someone for 10 years. Successfully, meaning that you enjoy each other. Throughout those 10 years, your relationships only improved and you have become very intimately connected. You enjoy each other so much. How are you going to approach them physically? Are you going to have any barriers with them? No, it will be very easy, very light. Why? Because you don't have tension. You don't have any contextual tension around this person. When we're with a new person, there is contextual tension that something is weird. What if they think that? What if they think this? Yourself tenses up, the person tenses up, so you cannot actually vibe with each other. You cannot connect with each other. You cannot easily touch each other. You cannot pamper each other and give each other a sense of safety, security, acceptance. Because there's a barrier of tension. That situation with Kuzi also resonates to the date topic. Let me catch you and love you. Learn how Madam accepts the other side as well. The streets empty out, the city falls silent. The masks of the day fall away under the light of the moon through the breeze, and whatever was hidden in the light comes alive in the night. Ooh. Tomorrow we'll be easy going because we're doing another dog walk, then going to see my buddy's hockey game. Thanks for your wisdom. Thank you, Trip. Just breathe. Yeah. I just had new social encounters too because I'm entering new social environment and I meet people, and that is advice that's relevant. That was relevant for me to just be mindful about that. Be mindful about not closing out. Being mindful about breathing. Being mindful about bringing my open self to the social encounters as opposed to defaulting, or well, rather not defaulting, but slipping down to some overly defensive, like, instinctively defensive self when you bring yourself to new environments. Such that you see people with clarity, such that you can communicate truthfully, authentically with them. Breathing in and out, breathing their truth in, breathing your truth out, interacting with this ease, with lightness. Cardinal, can you give me some advice about my new girlfriend? What advice? I don't know if I can give you advice about your girlfriend, but I can perhaps discuss some tools with you depending on the situation, so ask please. This might be off topic or dumb, but does time itself have barriers, or even though time is intangible? I don't know. Wayne, thank you so much. Hello. Jack Nitro Burst, thank you. Nitro Burst. Time has barriers. Does anyone know answer to this question? J Bo, hello from New York, Long Island. Hello, Miss New York. Not too much though. But the Empire State of Mind song does hit hard a little bit. Rigid der dub. You're so strong. Love your energy. Thank you. I can admit I don't know the answer to that question. Извините. Volunteers kerosene? No. I'm not really into. I don't know if it's some new movie. No, I'm not really versed on that. So about girlfriend Cardinal, I guess Cardinal, are you going to respond or not? Can we move on? What's going on with that? Hope you have a fair time. I won't. Thank you. Oh, barriers. Does anyone have any comments, questions on the barriers? Some examples. Barriers in relationships, barriers in communication, creativity, or maybe practices. Thank you, J Bone. And guys, I absolutely hate question where you're from, because I don't know the answer to that. I don't know where I'm from. From Earth. How's the puppy? Puppy was playing and then he's sleeping. I was chasing him around the table already. Is boundary and barrier the same thing? Good question, by the way. Boundary and barrier. I think boundary is something that, how I envision that, boundary is something that is put by you for other people or by other people for other people. But barrier is something that you experience that nobody knows who put it there, but you feel it as an obstacle to something. So boundary is not necessarily perceived as an obstacle, it's perceived more as a some structural thing to retain the structure of something. But barriers put there as an obstacle on the path of something. That's how I perceive it. It's an 8-minute short movie, got no words, no popularity, no attention, but has more of a message than most of what we know. Can you drop it in the comments for me after the stream is over? Boundaries is a stadium you're running in, but barriers are things that you have to jump over. Good analogy. Okay, so we have sustained eye contact is a pretty big barrier for Chad. So you feel barrier looking into somebody's eyes. What happens then? I'm curious. How much oil do you apply to your face? I don't apply it, I ooze it. Got good stuff. But I got good stuff, you see? I ooze it out of my pores. Thank you, Wayne, so much. So, Chad, I'm curious. What happens during that sustained eye contact? Also, can you look into your eyes in the mirror, for example? Or is it only when you are with somebody else? Which people cause you to feel discomfort with sustained eye contact? How much is sustained? Do you, in general, like to be seen? Or do you prefer to be not seen? Or you're afraid of being seen even though you crave being seen? These questions come to my mind. I try to maintain it, but usually look at their nose and then I have to look away and return to that happens throughout the conversation. Only certain people can respond negatively to it. So let's think. Hoops. Wait, I think my neighbors will be so pissed of that. I just banged my chair on the floor. So I'm going to draw something on Chad's question here in a second. I don't like being seen. No, my social anxiety is based on the discomfort of being perceived, I guess. So what about the mirror? If you stare at yourself in the mirror, what happens? Do you have any advice on how to deal with people who break your boundaries? Yes, I do. You think eyes reflect alignment and integrity of the person. I mean, eyeballs don't, because eyeballs are just eyeballs. It's usually the eye muscles around their eyes that reflect on some subtle emotions that a human is experiencing, that you read before you hear any words. Your brain compiles through some behavioral cues, very tiny, minuscule muscle movements, compiles the state of a human in front of you. So you are going to perceive if the person is in anxiety or if the person is in some, terror, sadness, whatever, because of the muscles around the eyeballs. And that is what you read. Integrity, lack of authenticity, lack of alignment is usually the predecessor of anxiety, is usually or associated with anxiety, with depression, because person is not living an authentic life, with sabotage behavior, and that creates an overall stressed, concerned appearance, or angry appearance, or disappointed appearance, which is appearance being muscle adaptations. So yeah, I like the answer. Smart muscles and micro expressions can tell so much about the integrity of the person. Thank you. I can stare at myself easy because that's me. What differentiates you from whatever people? Which people is that? Which people? Self is okay. Okay, so self, we are erasing. No problem with self. But which people? If we take a look, for example, staring in the eyes of your co-worker, some random Bob Jones. Does Bob Jones disrupt your flow? Or is it some Sylvia Silverstein that is a highly attractive woman who stares at you or gives you eye contact and you suddenly cripple? What's happening? The uncomfortable gaze I can replicate if I pretend the wall is a person and then I look back at the mirror and look weak, scared. I'm a different person when I'm alone with myself. Interesting. Now, which person? Any person. What we meet in real life. I'm gonna look in your eyes. Are you going to be uncomfortable or are you going to be comfortable? And again, example with Bob Jones from Your Work. Some, let's say, old woman or old man, like grandma, grandpa, in hierarchy for relatively to you. Are they going to be incredibly scary? If a child comes to you and looks in your eyes, like, look, can look at this, something, something. Are you going to be shy with that, or are you going to be comfortable? Let's find specific people that this happened with. Иди покажи свою прическу людям. Маленькая собака, ну-ка иди покажи свою прическу. Я тебя стригла. Стригла. Ты хочешь показать прическу. Пусик мой. Пойдем покажемся. Пусть все порадуются, какой ты красивый. Вот она. Ты пришел, спасибо, Кузенька. Умница моя. Пришел на работу. Мой красавчик. Мой такой красавчик. Okay, just people in general, but with women it tends to be stronger. Unless an old lady, there's easiest talk to. Or people who stare into my soul and are stand to so close, that also worsen. Ты мне поцелуйчик сделаешь. Спасибо, я тебя тоже так люблю вообще. Крутой мой мальчишка. Schnauzer? No. It's a Yorkie poodle. I just give him this such haircut. He looks like a schnauzer. Schnauzer, my dog. Schnauzer undercover. Пудель undercover. Кузьмичка. Тебе все там любви шлют. Все. Поработал. Умница. Иди давай. Занимайся своими делами. Деловая собака. Thank you, guys. So with people, we found out that it is women and soul stares. What about men? Which men are uncomfortable? Are there men that are uncomfortable to you to stare in the eyes of? It might be a matter of perception. Instead of imagining them staring in your soul, just imagine you're the one staring into their soul. Maybe that can help. And then time cutoff also. How long is sustained? What is sustained? If you envision that in your mind, what is sustained? Less than a second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds. You can just count in your mind. Imagine some character from this category and how you stare in their eyes. Why I'm being so peculiar about all of this? Because clarity is an insane tool. You know, sometimes people are like, something will change. I will do something. We need to do something. Something is awful. This triggers me something. Describe the system. What should change? What is actually happening? Let's give it metrics. Let's define it. Some people will be yelling that they're dumb, that they're not successful, that they don't have anything. What do you have? Let's actually look at what you have. Because in those emotional moments or some trigger moments, barrier moments, our consciousness shrinks to seeing just a segment of reality as a whole reality. That's why I'm being so peculiar, listing everything. It may seem excessive, but it's all necessary. Like permanent eye contact throughout the conversation, my boss and the head of maintenance both do that. Normally people look away naturally, but not as quick often as I do. So boss is uncomfortable, right? stare is a basic interpersonal conflict. It's basic. You can stare when there is a need for that. Means you're weaker. If you can stare when there is a need for that, it means you're weaker. I mean, weaker also. It's an interesting notion. Weaker. What is weaker? Where are we competing in hierarchy? Why is there hierarchy? Why do we bring ourselves to some hierarchy? Why do we sign up for it? Why? Weaker is also like, okay, let's put a label on yourself that you're weaker. Okay, why? And what? Weaker for what? There's things that are appropriate for a given situation, useful, and that are harmful and inappropriate for a given situation. Good, bad, weak, strong are things that are highly specific for situation basis. Oh well, when the manager or boss having strong eye contact is probably a tactic they do to feel more powerful in the conversation. I wouldn't take it personally. But don't excuse yourself. It's inappropriate to stare. Most of the time, we're not even close to being inappropriate. Okay, it's goofy because I wouldn't win in a fight against either of them, but they seem to think I'm weak because of the eye thing. Question, do you desire to have high sustenance of eye contact? Do you desire it? I just want to be normal social. No, you didn't answer my question. Do you desire to be able to sustain long eye contact? Yes or no? If the other person is doing it, yes. Can you say to yourself that, yes, I want to be able to sustain a good long eye contact? Because when we go to some issue, some particular issue, and then we go to I just want to be normal, to vague terms again, this is escaping from the solution. This is how I regard it. That's why I'm returning you back to answer the question, particular question. Because if you, when we are figuring out some particular thing, and you jump to, I just want something very big, means that I escaped the solution. Because when we are in a particular thing, working on finding the solution, finding a task, we need to stay on that thing to bring it to completion. Otherwise, we're going to forever be having those little things, the mosaic of little things, that never come to accomplishment, that never become a task for you in your mind, that I want to do this. Hence, you are programming yourself to just remaining in a general dysfunction. Because general problem is impossible to solve. What is I just want to be normal socially? This is part of what defines your idea of how you want to be. What you do, you jump out of this. Can you state that I want to be able to sustain prolonged eye contact, let's say? Can you say it out loud right now? Do you have internal permission and ability to say this? I mean, no hate, but if the other person is doing it, I want to match that and not lose. No. Do you want this trait? Do you want this? You want to choose between it. I mean, you're not just, for example, it's also interesting to reflect, yes, I want this feature. Can you say that to yourself? Because out of these little things happens what you call just want to be normal. You're giving yourself an assignment now, one thing at a time. I want to be able to look into somebody's eyes. What happens when you set it as an assignment to yourself? The next day, there's a situation, you have a conversation. You remember that, okay, eye contact thing. I want to try, let me try it. I want to do it. I want to do it. This desire of mine. So I will experiment. Instead of 1 second, I will look into their eyes for 2 seconds. Okay, feels fine. Nobody died. Nothing bad happened. Cool. Next time, I'm like, I want to sustain eye contact. You go in the situation, you look in their eyes, and you're like, let me see what happens if I do it for 3 seconds. Nobody died from 2 seconds. Let's see if anybody dies or crashes and burns and disappears from 3 seconds of eye contact. 3-second eye contact. Nobody died. Nothing terrible happened. Wow, amazing. Here you go. You sustained 3 seconds of eye contact. The next time, you can experiment with some other person. You're like, yo, let me try it with just everyone I meet now. Amazing. So you sustained 3-second eye contact with several random people. And they never died. Neither did you. This works wonderful. And now you mastered one social skill that is in your domain of what it is to be socially normal. Then we're going to do this with the same precision, with the same grip on something else. For example, I want to be able to carry some, I don't know, to show some emotion and smile during a small talk with someone. And do small talk, not some generic small talk, but actually some fruitful small talk. Let me try. Let's pick the least scary person to do this with and experiment it as a function. Do I have this function in general? Oh, yes, nobody died from that. Now, let me try with someone who I regard as, intimidating person. Oh, it worked again, and it was fine. So boom, we mastered the second social skill that will make you what you consider socially normal. Then we will go through many more things with the same precision, with the same grip, without jumping off the particular task to the idea of abstractly being just normal. Because I just want to be normal sounds like, yeah, I just want it to happen on its own. Because you cannot just become social normal like this, because there's no definition to this. Highly dangerous topic. Dangerous in what way? Nicholas, I'll help you. In nature, if two animals stare at each other, it can be a sign of aggression, especially males, so maybe it's been avoidant. It's hard not to think about what the other person is potentially perceiving about, because I don't like me, but I'm me, so what they're thinking is probably worse. It's hard not to think. Is it hard? It's hard but possible, or is it hard and impossible to not to think about them? You can always think about how you could make your communication with that person more comfortable. How you can, again, it's remember when in any relationships we're talking about the thing. How you can build a beautiful garden with the person, or you can grip into each other's ego, how you can grip into each other's thoughts, How we can just like suck each other's blood instead of being in relationships. So, Chad, I would recap with that topic with you right now. There are relationships, and actually any social interaction can be regarded as people with tangled gods. Like there's one person and there's another person with tangled gods. And they somehow try to think into each other's brains. This is brains, okay? They try to control their emotions. They're trying to control all cognitive activity. They're completely short-circuited on each other. We don't want that. It's a lot of tension. It's inevitably abusive. We want this beautiful garden. In every communication, you can build a beautiful garden. At least like on your part, at least try. This beautiful garden. And you and your companion in communication, you are two entering this beautiful garden. And nobody gives a fuck about each other's ego at that point, because you're both entering this beautiful garden. You have a space in which you don't have those tangled guts. You're entering the space. Imagine it as like a person, for instance, created a lounge or a beautiful coffee shop or a beautiful restaurant or a beautiful hotel, and they're inviting people to that beautiful hotel. Does anyone give a fuck about their some qualities? No. They're invited in the space that is lovingly built by that person. You have all power to build the space for communication each time you're conversing with just anyone. You can even visualize it as you're building that space. And how is it done? How to be hospitable in the space of communication. Imagine a good hospitality businessman, or someone who, or some, not even businessman itself, but the person who organizes the hospitable environment. What do they do? How do they create environment for you, the client, to feel welcome? Yes, bountiful garden, yes. So how do you create that? But you are a hospitality person. Your ego and who you are, what you are, does not exist there. You are creating a very beautiful space. It's not living in third person. It's living unbound, not like with like this towards your ego and like sitting picking at your ego. What people think about me, what I think about me, what my shape of my ears, this and that. How do people perceive this? Creating problems out of nothing. Instead of being on the flow, being on the path of life. Solving actual problems instead of inventing problems. So how is that to be in a hospitality role, hospitable role? You can create the space for yourself. You yourself can accommodate yourself. Give care to yourself. Build a beautiful garden for yourself. See how it feels. Beautiful emotional garden. This like very nice, accepting, beautiful environment. And then you translate it to inviting others. Every person wants pretty much the same thing. Everybody wants safety, acceptance, joy, pleasure. Invite people on those terms. This is my beautiful, hospitable place. Cozy, loving. You can safely relax in this space. My demeanor is the one that forms this beautiful space. And person comes into that space, they rest. They feel safe, they feel seen, they feel accepted. Your ego plays zero role there. In fact, when you put this, when you give it, when you perform this process, this is something that puts you also on your path, because you are creating effectively the framework that's most beneficial, most pampering, beautiful for yourself. You're creating the proper environment to nurture your mind, to nurture your body, to nurture your, let's say, soul. You're on the path of that creation. And then you invite other people. And you see them also as people, as like, I feel what you need, perhaps. I give you acceptance, I give you being seen. Instead of this, picking at each other's ego, short-circuited thing, the tangled guts, Brooke Broski Diggs is laughing. Very nice garden for sharing and caring. Yeah, in every kind of relationships. Personal relationships. If like people think how to build relationships such that they are fulfilling, enriching, invigorating. This is one of the components of the recipe. Create space that you're both co-gardening, as opposed to this, you are this, you are that, bitch, jerk, hate you, gave you best years of my life. You destroyed my life. This is only possible if you have tangled guts. Empty, hungry ghosts who stare at you exactly at you, only split for a second, looking into their black, dead eyes and drain your energy for months or even years until you can recover from it. Those who hunt you break your boundaries. These types are once in 5 years encounters. Don't frighten people. Yeah, that's a not daily experience, perhaps. Where do you live? It's kind of crazy. Sounds like he's living in third person. That sounds like there is a lot of, there's a lot of credit and there's a lot of external visual, external objects. That's a big problem for a lot of people, I think. Trying to get credit from someone, trying to get approval from someone. Guys, I let it all to you, okay? Chad, I'm highly perceptive, like I feel hypervigilance all the time, so it's harder. Now this will give you space, because this is where you feel hyper defensive, because it feels like everyone wants to just instantly go under your skin, go and attack you. This is this scenario. That's why I'm saying building the space will be a very beneficial strategy. This space is your buffer. This space is where you can have some soft control. The space is where you can um, create some air between you and others. Air infused with good um, with some light, with some comfort. This is a very cool trick. Don't underestimate it, please. My question before was how do you deal with people who cross your boundaries? Give me an example, please. Thank you, David. Everyone, try experimenting. If you have some relationships, friendships, if you have like intimate relationships, relationships with parents, with children, try experimenting with that. Add that space. You can visualize it. Sit down and visualize it. Introduce this concept in some meditative state to your brain, such that it understands what it's dealing with. When you build a habit of that, oh my God, what a wonderful thing it is. You don't want to soil in your garden. You want to grow it, you want to keep it beautiful. And that also will determine your attitude a little bit. Or maybe highly will change your attitude. Because space of relationships is also really easy to shatter. It's really easy to poison it. Because sometimes relationships end up being, no matter intimate or friendships, relationships can be soiled with a lot of emotional dumping, with some offensive stuff, with insults, with some painful criticism, with scandals, with things that are said without intention. And that scars relationships, and eventually it becomes a very weird place to be in. Start perhaps avoiding going into that space. That's why having this garden concept as a prior commitment will be a super useful tool. With both scenarios, just tell the person they're crossing your boundary. Be honest. If you don't tell them, they don't know. What is subject relationships in general? We started with barriers today, David. And right now we are on the topic that Chad proposed, barrier of looking in the eyes, sustained eye contact. Chad, I want your voice again. Have you tried imagining this thing? My ex was easy to talk to because she mostly looked away while ranting. All I had to do was listen and either affirm that she was saying what she was saying or build off what she was saying. Okay. How did you now? What made you remember about this thing, and how do you want to use this information? Maybe I'm just better at talking to crazy people because my mom was crazy. I think the block creativity you talk about here earlier is different to boundaries concept. Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, boundaries are more relevant in like some social context. Maybe I'm just better at talking to crazy people because my mom was crazy. Again, we went on a tangent. Just talking to crazy people who are crazy people, just talking to crazy people, then bring up arguments to support that you are going away from your task, you're going away from your goal, which means that there is a block inside of the psyche to solving the problem. We need to stay on track and work on a specific issue if we want to solve the problem. Instead of defaulting to paying attention or defaulting to just thinking about some big picture things that are not defined. I want you to bring more definition. I want you to bring more particular things, and I want you to address particular problems. This is how problems are solved. Blocking creativity sounds interesting. Yeah, we discussed that already. Who's madam? You have an interesting path. Whose path? General and abstract things, we're moving to particular. Well defined. Well described. Because that's where we start solving the problem. We're not going to solve this problem. Is there life on Mars? Or Mars is a strange thing. Mars. It's not going to lead us anywhere. What's going on? What's going on today? I don't understand. Chad, I want you to think why, from retaining focus on the particular thing and in solving the problem, why did you want to go back to abstract things? Why was there an urge? Why do you run away from me? When we start talking about particular solutions. Yeah, check my website. If you're unhappy with the live stream format, I have another format which is Saturday. Every other Saturday I have workshops. a wonderful thing. People get to practice in small circle of people. And then I also have, yeah, if you want one-on-one consulting, you're very welcome. Also work in that format. Sometimes people have particular things, and also if you want your case study to be worked on for free, you can send me an email and we can do a live stream on that topic. There are plenty of opportunities for every preference, how you can work with me. Yeah, my topic was with Chad was eye contact. And the trend that I noticed was escaping the topic whenever we started talking about solutions. Escaping the topic to some general observational things. I want to apply your advice. Ask me the question again. I'm sorry. So, we were on this topic of eye contact, then we moved on to the space. I want you to imagine how, for example, you envision the interaction, some bright interaction, let's say with your boss. You can imagine a group meeting at which the boss gives you the eye contact, for instance, and you cannot sustain it because of some anxiety, because it feels like it's an immediate threat or attack. I want you to visualize how you infuse that space, how you broaden the space around you. It comes from within you. From within you comes a beautiful garden of light, comfort, kindness, grace, in which you yourself feel very comfortable. You basically give yourself this beautiful buffer. And then your boss gets invited into that garden. Your garden expands, you grow it out of yourself, you expand it, and then eventually that garden, this beautiful thing, grows to encompass your boss as well. And see how it changes him, feel how it changes you, how you feel comfortable, grounded, pleased, and how your boss also undergoes changes when being intercepted by by being included in that garden. Observe him, how he changes. Build this space. You have distance between you. You have a tangible, visible distance of some emotional state. In your emotional space, you have buffer of something pleasant and good. And then this buffer allows you to sustain this distance such that it doesn't feel like he strongly emotionally is tangled with you, that he's looking into your soul or he wants something from you, that there's some danger, some violation happening due to some eye contact, emotional contact, that makes you want to hide, withdraw yourself. So this. And then with eye contact, the second thing that I want you to do in real life, start incorporating more eye contact into your life. Start small. From 1 second, you go to 2 seconds and a smile or something, whatever is comfortable, socially comfortable. From 2 seconds, you go to 3 seconds. And then you do it first with comfortable people. You extend it from 1 second to 2 to 3 seconds. And then you go out and do it with less comfortable people. 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and see how it actually keeps you safe. Everybody's comfortable, everybody's cool with that. Find your rhythm there. So I want you to start practicing that. 66, thank you so much. How long before meditation can rewrite the bad experiences? It depends how you meditate. It depends on your psyche. It depends on whether you will find the proper flow, how impressionable you are. Some people, for instance, they need a lot of conditions met in order for the meditation to work in a certain way. For some people, it will be easygoing because their natural baseline susceptibility of psyche is very high. Some people will need to do some primer work for that. So in Tantra, we start with relaxing a person. We start by easing the tension of a person such that they are more open, such that they're more receptive to the stimuli, such that they're more capable of expanding their pool of automation, such that they're capable of exiting or walking away from narrow scope of experiences that they have been enduring. That's why we start by priming the psyche and body first. And then certain complex, more imagery infused meditations, they can be more effective. But even if sometimes we start off right off the bat, and people have very good results as well. So it really depends. Okay. What if you have been abused in your childhood to a degree that you would only keep eye contact with people who you feel actually have a soul? Now that abuse is often prohibition to express your aggression, which means that your connection with your natural defense mechanism and your connection with your part that is capable of enacting your will in the world is suppressed, heavily suppressed. This is what I envision as the root of the problem. Which means that aggression work and building that core, internal core, that can give you the support, defense, and stability inside, such that you can handle those people without crashing. That core is built from your ability to claim, appropriate your ability to defend yourself. Because when you are not able to defend yourself, when you're not able to also be a leader in your life, you're not connected with your leadership, you are kind of living the bare minimum life. You're trying to orchestrate your life in a way that all of your experiences are exclusively very habitual and safe. Your comfort zone is very narrow, and thus anything that can trigger any sense of novelty, unrest, unease will be a huge trigger that will make you feel threatened, and so you will be avoiding that. You will be avoiding a lot of the experiences. Snraps, greetings from Germany. Hello. What's the best life advice you can share? Seek authenticity, don't betray yourself. Be honest. Brevino, thank you. You can't handle a demon not because of the people who just watch and don't do anything against evil, but exactly because of people who are gullible and enable evil. Have a lot of aggression towards these people. Have aggression towards your own gullible side. Have a lot of aggression for enabling evil. That aggression, if it rises, if this aggression rises and you actually claim it and allow it to be, and expressed in a hygienic way, such that it becomes a part of your core, such that it becomes the part of your part that such that influencing, building reality, this aggression that is your will to use world resource and build something. You claim it, and then you are on your path, and these things become of very little relevance. They don't no longer become a threat for you. But right now, what you're saying is that you have a lot of internal aggression. Aggression against the gullible and the one enabling evil. There could be a systemic work done on integrating parts of your personality. That's something that I envision. Parts of your personality that are very highly resourceful that are not integrated right now. There could be a lot of work done in working with emotions, stabilizing your psyche. Busan, that's a horrible situation, I understand that. And moreover, moreover, just know that I understand it very well. And moreover, from very dear people. Humans indeed are rather children who are insanely scared that they're en masse. And you, um, in turn, need to learn to live your life. You need to, if you want to have a good life, something that you have to do is to recognize that you are living your life, you are the subject of your life, you're the one who is curating this experience, largely. And these people are effective with their reactions, their demons that hound those little children who also are scared to death, who are holding on to their stability, to the illusion of stability, who are holding on to something. They are possessed by something, by some force. You can imagine it as such. And you're recognizing that, how they sold out to that force as a trade for stability, as a trade for some illusion of safety. And you're trying to live your life well with this rage sitting against them. Part of that rage may be towards some choices that you yourself are making. You yourself might be not recognizing where you are betraying yourself deeply, where you are choosing to sell, to trade some part of your soul, of your life, of your time, of your energy to those same demons. You might not recognize that. But in the work with this hatred towards them, you may find that. You may actually run into the thing in which, after you dump the first like load of steam about it towards them, if you ask yourself about that, where is your life masterpiece is stalled by the same attitudes that those gullible, weak people do, by those same things. Where is your life, not the masterpiece because of that? Because right now, whatever happened in the past happened in the past. Yes, it left an imprint, but you live right now. You live right now, and the baggage is not necessary to carry. On the way to masterpiece, the baggage must be dumped as much as possible. And even the most hurtful situations for which there is no even possible revenge, because some of the hurtful situations are really deeply hurtful, can be solved only by expansion and by seeking very strong level of freedom, reclamation of your freedom, reclamation of your energy. There's a huge amount of energy stored in those events, in those scars that they leave. Huge amount of energy. There's huge amount of anger. There's huge amount of potential for change. And when you return your focus onto yourself after you dump this onto people, at the same peak of this rage, return the focus to the demons that possess you, that turn you into a complacent being that's not authentic to your true core. Ask yourself, where are you? Them. And make a manifesto of not being that. Shrug the shoulders to shake off the demons that haunt you. Because you've got this life. Whatever happened in the past happened, but you've got to live your life. And that unease, that weight, the poison is not necessary on that path. It's a big freedom that these demons are showing to you right now. Human experience in general is highly harsh. The amount of obscene, terrible things that happen in the world is very huge. But everyone who has certain awareness, certain type of demands, perhaps certain level of conflict, and is eager for yearning for change, can actually do this wonderful thing as to return and put force of your awareness and that energy, that sacred anger, that fire, towards living your life to the best of your potential. Because there's no trophy for suffering. There's no trophy for giving yourself to some cause out there. There's none. And the amount of resources that you will be receiving from the state of the beggar for something, demanding stuff from someone as a payment for suffering, is very small, because most people live in suffering state. They have nothing to give you. The exchange is not possible. The path of expansion is path of leadership, when most of your focus is on your path and on your giving. To give, you need to be free, and you need to be strong, and you need to be energetic. You need to grow huge potential and capacity to love. And for that, you need to be free, shake it off, and bring yourself to full authentic alignment. And the darker things you saw, the more tools you have to do that. Because you know exactly the problems in the world, and you know the exact vulnerabilities that you have, meaning that you can work on those vulnerabilities and thus free more energy, more giving potential, and at the same time understand the vicious nature of humans, understand the weaknesses of humans, the voids that they have. What can you fulfill in humans? The demons that you see are children abused. The mother who beats her child, distrusts her child, betrays her child, is a little girl who got possessed by some deepest insecurity, deepest vulnerability that made her this trembling puppy who is trained to lick a hand of a person who feeds them sausage and beats them with a stick. That's the mother that does this with their children, as an example. There's just massive lack of love. There is massive lack of freedom in people. Somebody said broken amygdala. Yes, absolutely screwed up biochemistry, screwed up sensor in the head, screwed up alarm system. But turn it towards yourself. Where are you keeping some dysfunction in your life that prevents you from living full force? What's your demon? The bitterness, the poison that's left by those events encapsulates as a demon that sits on your shoulders. Look at it. You see it in others. It hurts so much. This pain is the demon. And the goal is to shrug this demon off and become so big and strong in a healthy way that the demon will not be able to climb up to your height. That you can squish the demon. Find that health, vibrance. And that can be done by understanding the role of that demon, the role that it played in your life, by accepting it as well. This demon was protecting. The demon was allowing you to live in the world of demons, but preventing you from living in the world of people. Imagine if everyone had a fighter dog, specifically trained to attack humans. You move to the city where everyone owns an attacker, a fighter dog. You will quickly learn that you will not survive without a fighter dog yourself. This is a metaphor for that. You are going to get yourself a fighter dog to survive in the city of dogs, of people who own fighter dogs, and that's the code of conduct there. But you want to live in the world of people. But you already are accustomed to living in the world with the fighter dogs, where people don't come close to each other, where dogs are barking. You go to another city and you expect everybody to just like jump at you, keep a distance, feeling danger. It's the matter of unlearning and relearning something new. And also surrendering the fighter dog. Solve the issue. I don't know if I did. I mean, solving the issue is a work. It's a work that's multifaceted work. You need to explain to your psyche why you no longer need a guard. How to do that. It's a methodical work of retraining your brain to perceive the reality differently. That certain events don't have to trigger those hormonal releases. Those events require different hormones to be perceived adequately. So we need to train that system. Oh my god. So I'm gonna sign off, guys. I'm tired today. It was a tough live stream. Thank you, everyone. Bye. But we need to do a review. For Kivushka. We need to do a quick review. And review will be very quick. So, in the review today, we talked about the barriers. We started off with barriers that they can be in life, in creativity, and in the practices. And we started off by the case study, in which we looked into the case where a person could not express their aggression inside of the practice. Inside of the practice, the person ran into the roadblock that their body just showed sign of tension. The breathing started being difficult, and basically there was a nodule in the solar plexus that prevented them from performing the practice. It was really unpleasant. So I was listing some methods for you, whoever is practicing tantric things, and also how I would approach it in the actual work with the guide, if I was to guide the person through visualization thing. I was discussing different ways of tackling the barriers inside of the practice. We can walk around, we can dissolve, we can check actually if we're just physically tired and not ready to perform the active practice. Then how we can walk to different directions and see if barriers present in all directions, if it's overwhelming. Or maybe we can try dissolving tension in the body through breathing if the barrier is associated with some somatic symptoms as well. If we notice that, we stop breathing. Then I think there were more tips there, but those exact same things apply and translate to real life and to creativity. How we can, instead of the barrier in relationships and creative work and communication, how we can work with that barrier using the same principles as within the tantric practice. We can remove the tension. We can approach activity when we are in better physical shape. We can change the context. We can change the direction in how we approach the same activity. It's not necessary. It's not necessary that we take the same route to entering certain activities. We don't have to be working at the same desk with the same direction orientation of the table. We don't have to be writing things or forcing thoughts at the same time. We can totally change the context of everything. Then we can also sit and analyze our barrier. What is it about? We can conduct some self diagnostics based on that. Perhaps come to more authenticity throughout that process. And then we worked on some case studies. For example, there was a case of communication barrier in the new dating. Thank you guys for flowers. Communication barrier inside of the new arising relationships. And there, just applying the same principles, we came to conclusion that contextual ease and also working on physical tension, identifying the, just listening to that physical tension and trying to dissolve it. So, and then we were working on Chad's case. And actually, there was a barrier inside of the barriers we identified. The barrier of looking into the eyes. On that case, we illustrated how important it is to sometimes break down the particular case into details, how important it is to carefully describe it, how important it is to dissect it into components and keep it inside of the particular problem solving. Something that we haven't had an answer for is why sometimes the process of solving the particular problem runs into a barrier, and we want to take a detour towards some general concepts. For instance, why is there a barrier to solving a problem? And this is also something interesting to contemplate, um, specifically for the author of the issue of the problem, and to understand why whenever we try to solve a problem, our mind starts drifting away. I'm sorry, guys. Why our mind starts drifting away from solving a problem? Why is it such? Are we attached to having a problem? Or is it literally the necessary disciplinary act to just perform this extra little step? To do this little extra to tip the unfavorable situation towards solution. So this is also something to reflect on. And this is actually why a guidance sometimes is needed, because the guide can make you mindful of that you are trying to run away from the solution and keep you on track. That's the value of working with someone, actually, was illustrated today. Because if you are not working with someone, you can take always this easy route, and that's what happened with the person who was trying to practice. They just run away from the practice instead of finding the ways out, because inside it can feel very unpleasant. It can feel really debilitating or crushing or difficult to handle a situation on your own. When you are inside of the solution of the problem, it might be a huge intellectual, mental burden. And having that extra energy, some person who is a little bit outside can be in the observer role for that, can be beneficial as in allowing the person to do this necessary healing step, to accomplish this necessary healing step that on your own might be impossible, because on your own your psyche has a lot of resistance and wants to remain in the conventional habitual paradigm and behavioral model. So that's something that we reflect on today. And Chad, thank you so much for this precedent. Килушка, thank you so much. Моя дорогая, вы расцветаете в каждом эфире, делясь своей мудростью. Мне так приятно слушать вас, созерцая красоту моего цветущего сада. Знаете, что этими словами я искренне выражаю свое признание и посылаю вам самые теплые пожелания. Спасибо большое, Кимушка. Это действительно так. Для меня очень ценно проводить эти эфиры, и я их очень жду. У меня такой голод по ним. Очень люблю решать задачи особенно. И внутри это чувствуется, да, как расцветание. Вот такое тантрическое наблюдение, когда входишь в какой-то процесс, в котором у тебя вдруг вырастают крылья, освобождается очень много энергии. Очень это люблю. Мне очень приятны ваши слова. И мне очень приятно ваше теплое присутствие. И такая доброта и энергия очень добрая. И это очень приятно. Ну, раз упорт, Кивушка. Нам надо, Кива, в посвящение вашему саду сделать какой-нибудь очень приятный, такой какой-нибудь красивый эфир. Что-нибудь такое красивое, чудесное сделать. Мечтательно, сияющее. Я как представлю вашу атмосферу. Вообще фантастика. Вот. Это эфир, в котором как-то так без чернухи, чтобы все было так как-то жизнеутверждающе и воодушевляюще очень. Надо такую какую-то штуку сделать. Поэтому я буду готовить какую-нибудь тему, которая будет абсолютно красивой. Вот с таким вот твистом. Так что спасибо за идею. Но, кстати, у нас же еще в субботу с вами workshop. Yes, on Saturday we're having a workshop. So people who want to participate, who haven't signed up yet ever, for whom it will be the first time, please send me emails and I will add you to the group. I'll send you the link for Zoom. Usually in the email, I usually send Zoom link and what we're going to study and the time. Time of workshop, Saturday, 2 p.m. New York time. And Kiva, I don't know what we're going to do yet. I'm debating hard whether we're going to expand on the previous practices and do the hardcore versions such as hot and cold and also sadness and happiness, or if we're going to just briefly talk about those. I'll just add them to the slides that you already have. And we're going to do breathing practices. So we'll think about that. What would be more fun? Multitask? Yeah. Might have work then. 2 p.m. Saturday? Sure. Two p.m. New York time. 8 p.m. Central European. Just send me email then, if you want. If not, it's fine. Hello. Already signing off, just wrapping up now. So, yeah, Saturday we're going to meet up. Going to be late, but I'll be at the next workshop. Sure, Chad. How we're gonna do that? Really good note, the stream curtains are closing. Yes, yes. And I'm so excited. I need to think about some beautiful topic. How I want to do that? Ah, in devotion to your garden session. Get off work 4 p.m. Saturday. 4 p.m. probably would be late for me because I like to do workshops earlier, such that we can be fully rested because we do practices that are a little bit energy demanding. Last time, by the way, I felt a little bit fatigued after doing practices several times in a row. It was a little bit too much for my mind because we also stayed a little bit for extra runs. Normally I have Saturday off, so though this week my schedule was just a bit weird. By the way, off work later too, so I'll only be a little late. No changes on or anything needed on your part. Okay, Chad, I'll be waiting for you. So, boo, boo, boo. I also want to start doing sessions for new people if there will be demand, such that I can also introduce old topics to new people. But maybe I'll just make recorded things because I don't record workshops. I want people to feel free in their expression and in how they feel. That's why I don't record workshops. No, don't post them anywhere. So it will be lessons without any people that I want to record. We'll see. Because new people are coming and there is demand already. I already have emails from people wanting to study stuff. And if I just send them slides, here are slides, it will be of no use. Like a little group channel voice call thing. Discord lives. The diversifying platforms, I don't know. If there was some good app that I could use to just outsource everything at once to all apps would be wonderful. But we'll invent something. Yeah, Kiva. Exactly. We'll figure it out. Yep. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm gonna go. Now that I don't want to sound self-entitled and have to anyway. No, it's okay, Chad. I mean, you're part of the group. I mean, you are the person who is taking advantage of that, and you are the person whose opinion surely matters. So, thank you, everyone. Paxton, thank you, and thank you, everyone who participated today. And we're going to meet tomorrow. If you have any suggestions for topics, email me or send a comment. And your words are always appreciated. Thank you, and I wish you a good day. Thank you so much, Kibushka. Tomorrow's my grocery day. And so, yeah, it's my grocery day, and I also want to try going to the beach tomorrow. Good night, everyone. Meeting tomorrow too, yes. Same time, but maybe earlier, 1 hour early. We're meeting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. 5 p.m. New York time. Wonderful. Any topics, any questions, please drop them down or email me. Or if you have some crazy stories that you would like to figure out, also would be nice. Hence, write me an email if you wish. You have some story to share as a case study, and we can work on that like we did today. Спасибо, Киюшка.